Trigger warning. Thinking about a real fun topic of why I didn't report my rape. Not only did I not report my rape, I didn't tell anyone about it for years after. The first person that I told about it was my mom. And then like maybe 15 years later, maybe even 20 years later, actually, I started to actually talk about it, in a therapy setting, group therapy, trauma support setting. And even then, I didn't talk about it for like a good 2 or 3 years into working on other, related topics to sex and trauma. And I think the main thing is I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to look at it. I was so in shock after it happened, while it was happening. And it was a friend of mine. I was 17 and I'd been living on the streets. And this was somebody I'd hung out with a bit. And, like a lot of people, when you're on the streets, a lot of people don't go by their real name. They have street names, so I don't even know his real name. We were in a squat, and it was, we're friends, so like I just felt kind of comfortable, safe, whatever. He, I thought, was kind of a straight edge and didn't really do a lot of drugs or alcohol. And we were kind of, cuddling or sleeping, and then he started to rape me, and I kept saying, no. I was telling him no. And afterward, he was just like, oh my God, like I just raped you. And like, he was freaking out. So I was comforting him. Like I was, like, oh my, just kind of had my arms around him, like, just hoping he'd be okay. Like not even knowing how to deal with what happened to me, or like even really thinking about it. Because again, just kind of in shock and just kind of like lying there. And he told me he had been doing speed that day, which he had never really done before. And I don't think I ever saw him again after that. But, part of it also, it's like, I had somebody, when I started talking about it later, they're like, oh, well, no wonder, like, you've got this trauma or whatever. I'm like, in a way, it was kind of the least of my problems, and that's really fucked up when you're talking about that. And it's like, well, there's so many other things that I was dealing with that were equally, if not worse than that at the time. And also, going through the process, like you're on the streets, you don't want to talk to the man. You're not gonna like, you don't want to go to cops willingly for almost anything. You kind of deal with it in the way that you do. And I have a lot of friends who were killed or killed other people for way less than that. Just like really stupid shit, really petty, like, somebody says something at a party or in a squat or whatever. So this whole thing about like the Me Too movement, one of the many things that's been really triggering about it is the backlash for women and survivors. Actually, I really try and refrain from making this about women, because in my recovery and support network, I'd say a good 3/4 of the people, survivors of sexual assault, abuse, molestation, are men. And even the women who I know in that area are often, their perpetrators were women, both, for men and women. So it's really not a thing about gender. It doesn't have anything to do. Survivors are perpetrators. They say hurt people. And that's one of the other things that makes it really hard to make it like a, the victim mentality, or like us against them, because ultimately, if you've survived some trauma like that, the anger and resentment, which is fully valid and raging at times, the anger toward that person, the more you hold on to it, the more you suffer from that anger. And I mean, I've gone through this in so many different situations, some as some not as traumatic as assault or anything, but still, it just kills you. It just eats you up from the inside. And part of so it's like believe survivors, and then what to do about the assailants, the perpetrators, the predators. I've also seen a lot of them go through recovery, both as, because a lot of them were victims when they were young. So it's like the cycle just continues, it repeats. So at what point do we look at the people, and not just, obviously, there's legal repercussions if people commit a crime like that, but there's also their trauma. The cycle of trauma has to stop, not just with survivors of assault, but also the perpetrators. It's a big, complicated thing. I don't know this. I'm not saying that I have the solution. I'm just saying the world, like, it's so messed up that we as a human race have so much potential. There's so much possibility for greatness, and shit like this, it's got to stop. And how does it stop? Big picture, I don't know, but I do know that we have to take care of ourselves. We have to support other people who have gone through difficult shit like this. And even if somebody doesn't report their rape or trauma for, 30, 40 years later, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just probably took that long for that person to come out of the shell shock state that they went into when that incident happened. It kills me. It kills me. I had to stop. I stopped following everyone on social media, on Facebook. I unfollowed every single one of my friends, and a lot of news outlets and everything. Even things like Good Morning America. They had a victim, or somebody talking about sexual assault and harassment, and the videos even that were posted on like their Facebook page, for example, the comments from men and women about how, these people couldn't have really gone through it, or they, how messed up they were for not reporting it sooner. And it's just like, you have no idea. They have no idea. Power to the people that had enough balls and self-worth, and whose lives were together enough that when something like that happened, they were able to recognize what had happened and face it head on and report it and deal with it right away. It's amazing. I'm so impressed. I have friends I've watched heal, address their attackers or deal with it in some way, whether it was a personal ritual or something. They kind of faced that trauma head on. I have a friend who was raped in a squat. She was asleep and she woke up and some random homeless person was on top of her. And I have other friends, like I said, that were murdered or murdered other people in those types of situations. And so, a lot of crazy stuff happens, but it doesn't ever leave you. And I also, the other part of it, of not wanting to share your story, is that you don't want to be defined by it. I don't want to be defined by that, like, one incident. It's like, my life is so much bigger. There's other way more fucked up shit that happened. And there's also a lot of really, really, really beautiful things that have happened in my life, and so much healing and so much growth and just so much joy and grace, that I also want to focus on that too. So that's why I didn't report. I don't know about you.